Hey duelists, it's Paradox Brothers, and we've got a super special video for you today. We've each purchased the Legacy Collection 20th anniversary, 25th anniversary edition. I gotta stop trying to talk over the new mics we got. I know they can hear us just fine.
And just so you know, since we haven't really shown our faces in our videos, I'm Pharoah, and this is
Docs.
So this will be really fun. This is a really cool collection for people who like GOAT format and people who played the game all those years ago when it was new.
And what is absolutely the appeal for me is we are going to physically be opening a Legend of Blue Eyes pack, a Metal Raiders pack, a Spell Ruler pack, Pharaoh's Servant, Dark Crisis, Invasion of Chaos. And before we do, I did want to ask you, Para, what was the first cards you ever got? Like, how did you get your first Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like, ever?
The very first Yu-Gi-Oh cards I ever received, it was I don't remember, it was a store, and somehow I convinced my parents to get it for me, but it started at Kaiba, and it was before anybody else had cards. So I just had one started at Kaiba, which only came with one Blue Eyes.
Right.
And
which was a total ripoff.
Yeah, right? Which was a total, it was definitely like not what you expected from watching the anime.
Exactly. I kind of felt that way too, because my first set of cards I got was started at Yugioh, which is hilarious enough that you got Kaiba and I got Yugioh.
Yeah.
But what we had done was I had my 4-year younger brother, and just like with the very first Pokemon starter deck we got, we split it. So then we got starter deck Yu-Gi and we had to split it.
Yeah, I did the very same thing, but not with a sibling, but with a friend that we have in common.
Cool.
Yeah, and he lived down the street, or he lived the street away. So he was down for whatever. So we just split the deck and started playing that way. And whoever got the most busted cards out of the deck usually won. So
yeah. So what I tried to do with the starter deck Yu-Gi is, obviously there was an entire war that happened between me and my brother over who got Dark Magician.
Yeah.
And I finally said, you know what? Take it. But I'm getting Summon Skull. And then whenever we started playing, because we're both playing with half a Yu-Gi-Oh deck,
right,
you know, how legit is that, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, he takes 2 tributes.
Yeah, he does.
And Summon Skull only takes 1, so who's the sucker now? I eventually got a Dark Magician, but...
That's great.
That's awesome.
So when was the last time that you actually opened a pack of cards that you can recall?
So a physical Yu-Gi-Oh pack of cards, it has to be probably around that Gladiator Beast Synchro era of stuff. I remember with friends, I would go out to like Meyer late at night, we would work late at nights, and we'd get off around 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then we'd go to Meyer, get a couple packs, and check out what pulls we got in like the parking lot. So, and a legitimate Yu-Gi-Oh pack, I mean, that's probably about 12 years ago.
Yeah. It's difficult for me to really remember. I can better timestamp it by saying like kind of most of the time when I would get a pack of cards was like an entry pack from playing in a tournament when I used to play when I was a little kid.
Yeah, those are super cool.
And that was pretty much right at the end of GOAT format, because you know, I played in tournaments throughout the Yatagarasu Dark Ages.
Yeah, you played competitive back then.
Yeah. And then I played a little bit after that, and that's about where I stopped playing. So I would say probably around that time was the last time I opened a pack of cards, which I really can't even remember when that was. Forever ago.
Wow.
And so it's been a very, very long time since I've opened a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And you played the game longer than I did, actually. Like you played.
Yeah, I played until basically the end of Synchros, and then was cold on it until like 3-ish years ago.
That's why it was fascinating to me coming into GOAT format, because back in the day when I played for the first time, as many of you may have,
it was almost where you left off, right?
Yeah, it was, except for like it felt like you know, you could access all the cards. You could feasibly access the cards that you were otherwise out of your reach at that time.
I had those problems whenever I played around that 2010 era with Gladiator Beasts and Synchro Monsters, and I remember we had one friend who had Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier.
Yeah.
That card was insane. But yeah, I never actually had that feel of that limit from back in the day because I actually didn't go to tournaments back during the GOAT format and that kind of era.
You know, for me back in the day, if you had a BLS, a Mirror Force, any of those cards, it was
I had a Mirror Force.
It was so expensive. So if you pulled a Mirror Force from like Metal Raiders or a BLS from Invasion of Chaos or something, then like you were, and people, I remember they would, there were some older people who went to the tournament that I went to, me being like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 years old. I don't even remember how old I was, probably even younger than that, playing, and these older guys in their 20s, which seemed like
they're just ruining you with their decks they got with the paycheck, right?
Right. They just buy like an $80 box and crack it open and just get all these really.
I've never opened up a set box like that, ever.
I have never opened up a set box of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Let's open up these boxes so we can see what we've got.
All right, sounds good.
I do have a knife on me in case we need it.
Yeah, we may. All right, awesome.
So that's the whole box. So right up front, we've got, it gives us the God cards of the pack. Oh, I forgot. Besides the 3 Egyptian God cards and then the big 3, the Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, there's that extra card that comes in that new Rarity.
Right, yeah.
Just for the 25th anniversary pack. So we'll check that out later.
Yeah, that'd be great. I personally love these particular God cards because these are the ones that I believe are not the playable ones. Yeah, not the playable ones. So these were the God cards as they were back in the day when I played, before they came out with playable ones.
And then you had somebody who was like, I got the card. And it's like, that card sucks. It doesn't do anything that it says. Let's check out the spread.
Yeah.
So let's kind of like set them out in order. Or let's do... so the very first pack released was Legend of Blue Eyes, right?
Yep, it was Legend of Blue Eyes. Legend of Blue Eyes was released in 3/18/2002, and it contained 126 cards.
And that was the first physical, like, North American, like, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right?
I think it was the first pack, and technically I could be wrong, but the first Yu-Gi-Oh cards you had access to in North America probably were the starter decks, but I could be mistaken.
I think, because I remember watching like a history of Yu-Gi-Oh meta and all that stuff, and I could be wrong, but I thought they said that the Blue Eyes pack came out first, but there weren't actually like rules that came with it. Oh, well, and the internet wasn't what it was, in the early thousands, whatever.
Yeah, we're old.
So this may be
the very first,
the first access that we had to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was a pretty big deal for us, but it's interesting because there's so many cards inside of it that weren't really even playable by the time they were released, just because of how early Yu-Gi-Oh was outpacing itself, trying to catch up to the OCG.
That's what's so fun and has so many different kinds of situations, is because you got the manga, the show, the cards, the video games, and none of it was really in a processed order, right? It was just like, we're doing it and move forward. Well, I don't have the data I need to do this the right way. Figure it out. Make it up. Attack the moon. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's literally like from all of Yu-Gi-Oh in the very beginning, and not really just Yu-Gi-Oh, but a lot of media back then, because media was still kind of an emerging market in America, particularly, that it was kind of still getting its footing in that time. So it was just kind of playing it by ear and figuring it out as it went along. So, and obviously the card game was made well after the initial manga was made. So he didn't really have a idea of how you wanted the game to play. So that's why you get ridiculous situations like Giant Soldier Stone attacking the moon.
I'll let you do the honors. I say let's go ahead and open our Legend of Blue Eyes packs.
All right, good. So let's see. Try to open it without decimating it, but I probably won't. So
I have been so excited about this ever since we got these.
I know, me too. All right. So let's see what we have here. Red Medicine. Great.
Classic.
Monster Egg.
Like a baby Ryu ran, right?
Yep, you can tell. That's another thing I love about the artwork from the older cards, is you can tell they were recycled and used for later cards. Vile Germs. Like, this is absolutely the Skull Knight Servant guy, right?
That is such an old card.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Attack the Moon.
Attack the Moon.
Oh my
Giant
god.
Soldier of Stone. That's a cool one. I wanted to make, honestly, I definitely wanted to use him in an actual GOAT format deck and try to make it usable for a long time.
That's dope that you pulled that.
Yeah, I know. Mountains, or Mountain. Mammoth Graveyard, which, you know, the show, you saw
What
that.
an OG.
Yeah, right? Binding with, what was it? Binding with the Sacred Arrow or some nonsense like that.
Yeah, it was the Living Arrow card. He used polymerization on the Mammoth Graveyard and the Living Arrow
to destroy Ultimate Dragon. Was that it? Is that how he destroyed the Ultimate Dragon?
So he actually, like, it started to rot and decay the Blue Eyes White Dragon,
right.
and then he made Celtic Guardian attack one head at a time.
Right, you're right.
Because he was rotting and melting and all
That's
gooey.
right.
Super cool imagery, right?
It was so. It was
You're like,
really
wait,
awesome.
he can do that?
Yeah.
Sure. Wait, that's happening?
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Still, definitely a bit salty about the fact that Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is not GOAT format. Just because, like what we said earlier, the way they would release cards was in such an odd way. Like Dark Magician, Chaos, the Ritual card, and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, even though they were in the very first season of Yu-Gi-Oh!, never made the
Those cards would even be in the older video games.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the video games are obviously going to originate in Japan.
Yeah.
And so it would have the Japanese released cards in there. So,
it was
yeah,
crazy.
you would run into some really crazy stuff.
Tama's Soul and a Wasteland.
2 field cards.
Yeah, 2 field cards. All right, you're up.
I'm pretty jealous about that Giant Soldier of Stone, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I'm pretty happy about it.
And let's just go ahead and say, I love the art. We'll talk about more about the art stuff, I'm sure, but like the pool, the confidence, like he's about to mess you up, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's not even Heart of the Cards. He don't even need it yet.
No.
King Fog, Trial of Nightmare, and Warrior number 1. Look at all these vanilla monsters.
I know.
This is so hilarious. Tyhone, Final Flame. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's a nice card right there.
A hollow trap pull. I get mixed on the rarities. I didn't even know you could get a silver letter and a hollow together.
All I know about the older packs is like nothing is guaranteed.
Oh, really?
Nothing is guaranteed. Yeah, no shiny, or at least no shiny is guaranteed. Maybe a rare is guaranteed. I don't remember.
And
but
inflict 600 points of damage to your opponent. That's a good, like,
it's actually pretty decent,
card.
honestly. Yeah.
And the art is like, look at this stuff, right? It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so clean. It's so like, it's such an aesthetic, right?
Yeah, it is. You could tell
that trap hole is super nice.
That's really nice.
Got the mountain.
I'm glad you
armored starfish.
I'm glad you got this guy. I'll use this as an opportunity. Personally, I have many cards in GOAT format that I wish were playable but are not playable. And this guy of the blue flame right here, gotta read his name, Kagamusha of the blue flame. I love that artwork.
The card art is so cool. It's so good.
Yeah, and I wish he was I honestly wish he was playable.
Warrior normal, serving as a double for the ruler of the blue flame. He's a master swordsman that wields a fine blade.
Yeah.
You know, that is criminal that all the vanilla monsters get the flavor text.
Yeah, and not the effect monsters.
That is definitely something that has, you know, we've lost it along the way, right? As Yu-Gi-Oh has evolved. That trap hole is so nice.
I'd say so far you're definitely winning.
It's not a competition unless I do win.
Unless you win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only competitive if I'm doing good, right?
I gotcha.
Let's just go ahead and move on to the Metal Raiders pack.
Metal Raiders, okay. Just so that you guys know, Metal Raiders was released in June 26, 2002. Contained 144 cards. So that was they could tell that they had something successful there, right? So they brought in 144 new cards to the game.
Very cool.
So let's see how the card game kind of evolved. You notice that in Legend of Blue Eyes, there really isn't a lot of spell support or trap support, it's really just a lot of normal monsters.
Very bare bones.
Yeah, and which has its own joys, honestly. If you ever want to play Yuki Kaiba format, there's a lot of really fun matches to be had.
You kind of go from checkers to chess almost.
Right, yeah, it does. It grows. It grows tremendously. So Metal Raiders, if I recall correctly, brought in a lot of kind of trap cards for the first time, like significant trap cards. Not that trap hole is not significant.
Oh, speaking of trap hole, whenever I was in high school, I was in that metalcore band, and one of our favorite songs and one of our best songs we ever made, we had always struggled to come up with a name for it, and we didn't really like fitting the lyrics into the title of the song. Plus, back then with metalcore music, it would be just a pun or some kind of corny joke that has nothing to do with the song or the content. And our best favorite song, we ended up naming "Bottomless Trap Hole."
That's fantastic.
I was still about it for sure.
I love it. Trap hole was just ridiculously powerful back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
When you first had if you had the starter decks, trap holing, when they dedicate resource to summon a Blue Eyes or summon a Dark Magician or summon school and trap holing that guy, it was it was crucial.
What do you have set up to defend that? Right, 7 Tools of the Bandit, if you're lucky.
Right. Yeah. And oh yes, this is the kind of stuff I love about the old Yu-Gi-Oh! 1550, 1650, 5 stars. And I think this might have been an OCG exclusive, but I could be wrong. Akubeam has an I. Gotcha. I love that sort of stuff. 5 stars, 1515, 1550 attack, 1650 defense. Ridiculous.
If you had that in your deck back then, you were struggling.
Yeah,
big time,
you were
right?
struggling. Yeah, I'd say so. This is the first taste of fusion monsters. I don't know if they had any fusion monsters in the last set, but maybe they did. Musician King.
We do. We've got Black Skull Dragon featured on the Metal Raiders cover, right?
Yep.
So
he's in here. I believe Music King, wasn't he in the anime during that time where Yugi was playing against the Johnny Steps was his name?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's what it was.
Yeah, Johnny Steps?
Yes, it was.
The DDR moment they had in there?
Yeah.
Stim Pack. I know Anthony likes that artwork on that.
That was a legit good card back in the day,
Yeah.
Honestly. I thought it was.
Yeah, it was. The Blue Winged Crown. Is that right? Yeah, nice. Great Moth. That's nice.
I love the warm and cool colors on that.
This card I love. Look at that.
No way.
Magic Jammer. That's awesome.
That is fresh.
The Magic Jammer, shining like that, is so much better.
Yeah.
That is pretty fantastic.
There you go, Duelist.
Now, that's a good example of what I was talking about, them integrating more trap cards. A counter trap, right? One of the fastest kind of reactions you can have in GOAT format.
We talk about, too, how spell cards are the most powerful cards in GOAT format.
Yeah, you think about the Blue Eyes White Dragon, so you got the Regeki right in there, I believe, and things like that. Dark Hole, first set. So those were powerhouse cards.
Yeah.
The Baisho Butcher, another ridiculous card, but it is a card, one of the first cards next to Great Moth that I think we've seen that actually has an effect.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Ancient Brain.
I always thought that card art was cool. I think it's fusion material for something.
The Ancient Brain?
Yeah, something trash, but something nonetheless.
Yeah, I think this guy right here was as well. The Disc Magician.
I love his art. Yeah, that is so fun.
And 1350, 1000 defense.
not good at all.
It's just,
but looks super cool.
I just love the way they were incrementally they didn't know where they wanted to go with the power, right? With the power of the cards. I just thought that was great. Well, I'm pretty happy with the Magic Jammer, I must say.
Yeah, I believe you. So you got a silver lettered and a gold lettered too. So
we'll just see how this trend continues. Right?
Yeah,
I think I only got a silver in the
first pack.
First one,
yeah, in the Legend of Blue Eyes pack. So it's my turn to open my Metal Raiders pack. Tore that one up. That's all right. Tremendous Fire.
Now that is actually
1,000
a pretty good
to your opponent and 500 to you.
That's a pretty good burn card.
It is.
That's 1/8 of your life.
Kaminari Attack.
That's pretty ridiculous. This card,
Kojikosi.
definitely in the starter deck Kaiba for sure.
Yeah, I loved his card art too.
Yeah, he's awesome.
You've got Launcher Spider.
And left-handed, just like you.
He is. Yeah. Dark Elf.
That is actually that used to be a really good card in Critter format. Honestly.
Yeah. I remember thinking it was so bad.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, I have to pay life points.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to attack and lose points. That is worthless. So I remember getting rid of any Dark Elf I ever came across. And people were willing to take it up. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously, I know something you guys don't. Yeah. You guys are fools for paying 1,000 life points. But it was legit good.
It's honestly, I love the just the dark elf, the mystic elf.
Yeah, that might be the first time we've seen that contrast,
light dark.
like
Yeah,
the
exactly.
chaos, like the vibes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sort of deep seated. I remember loving this card. I used to run one in my old deck.
Now, is that the card that you can put back on your deck, or
Equip monster gains 500 attack and defense, and it's sent to your graveyard. Place it on top of your deck.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So you're not allowed to. You're told
that
to.
the same individual we have in common as a friend played that card all the time.
It's just it's a dope looking card.
It is so cool.
Leogan.
Once again, 5 stars, 1750, 50 defense.
Morphin, an electric lizard. I got a Tristan card. That's not a good look for me.
That's what does that do again?
So electric lizard says a non-zombie monster attacking electric lizard cannot attack on its following turn.
Wow.
So after you rock this thing and kill it, next turn you get to hang out.
Unless you're a zombie, and then it's just a free pass for some reason.
Because what? They don't have electricity in their body? They're dead?
See, this is where it comes from, like the early show where they're trying to figure out what are the physics, what are the rules, what are the boundaries they have in this game that they want to follow.
Yep.
And they were like, do we want it? Because if you remember, like, Weevil fighting Yugi.
The whole field is wet. My summon skull's going to burn the crap out of your moth. Your moth sucks. So what pack is next in the release order?
I believe it is Spell Ruler.
I also
or
do
Magic Ruler for all of us who were opening them back in the day.
Yeah, we remember Magic Ruler.
Yeah.
Launcher Spider. I used to think that card was so good. I really did.
Is he 7 stars?
I thought the Fire Monster was cool. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, he's a 7-star dude.
What is his flavor text?
A mechanical spider with rocket launchers capable of random fire.
I mean, that does seem pretty terrifying.
It's just the art, the background, like it's like some kind of grid or laser, like a targeting thing, right? I love the integration between the monster and the background, and like the synergy between it, right?
Oh, I love
that's something Yu-Gi-Oh has always had on point.
Yeah, the artwork, especially back in the day, was just really good. Honestly, they put so much detail into it because I don't think they knew if it was going to continue on for as long as it did.
Yeah.
So they put so much effort. Not that I'm saying they don't put. I don't really know what new cards really look like, honestly. I don't really look at them, but you can just tell they put so much effort into these cards, which is why I wish some of them were playable.
So,
all right. So shall we continue?
Yeah.
All right, with the Magic Ruler, aka Spell Ruler. I believe this is the first. This might be maybe it's not the first. It might be the first time we get ritual monsters. I can't remember exactly. I think Relinquish is in this deck. All right. Umiruka. Increase the attack of all monsters by 500 points and decrease their defense by 400. That becomes a common trend in here. Fire Kraken. This card actually used to be pretty good, honestly, back when you were down on resources.
4-star 1600. Yeah.
One thing everyone has that's not like as old as us have to realize is back in the day when you played this game, there wasn't easy access to get common cards for cheap. Right, TCG Player wasn't really as much of a thing. It wasn't really as much of a thing, so you really depended heavily upon the cards that you pulled. So
or just the neighborhood,
just
right?
Whatever you can trade for. So it was kind of cool in a way because it created this more thematic kind of result with the decks, right? You kind of theme your cards like in a fire way, right? Like your deck, you might actually make a fire themed deck primarily because it benefited you with like Molten Destruction or something.
Right.
This is just ridiculous. This is when they weren't getting too clever with their names.
I love some of the garbage names.
I love Twin Long Rods number 2.
I love the numbering thing too. You would get a number and you're like, who's number 1 if that's number 2? Or like, I remember the Dark Fire Soldiers were really cool, right? Those were actually good.
Cool, yeah. And it fits so well with the Spirit of Flames, right? They are kind of all work together. The Reliable Guardian might be the first quick play. Not entirely sure. Giant Rat, that's obviously a really good GOAT card. This is a really good card. Banned. The Forceful
He said banned.
It's banned. Super banned, but really cool. And if you play like a...
that art is so slick.
You play like a format older than GOAT, this card is amazing. Read the effect for us.
Look at your opponent's hand, select one card among them, and return to his or her deck. The deck is then shuffled.
Yeah.
I remember watching a Yu-Gi-Oh! History video and seeing this card. And as far as like banned cards go, if they were banned, I tried to never really give them any thought, especially if I didn't own them, because it would be like I wouldn't feel like I was missing out.
Right.
So when I watched that video and I saw this card, I was like, this card is good.
Yeah,
and then I looked it up and I said, this card is banned.
It's like a trap dust shoot, which is very meta relevant nowadays in modern.
But it's a spell.
But it's a spell, so it's faster and it has no restrictions on when you can activate it. And just like trap dust shoot, it has one of the best forms of removal in the game, which is sending it back to the deck.
There are two types of old Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? You have this absolute fool who, honestly, design-wise, I hate it.
Yeah.
I do not like it.
Name-wise, fantastic. Design-wise, I don't know what's going on. And then you have this card, which is absolutely broken. So you can see why back in the day, if you were like an adult in a meta where it was primarily the demographic playing at the time were younger individuals, that you would just be winning tournaments left and right.
And there wasn't any ban list until
until the Yatagrasu nightmare format.
So this was allowed at 3.
I don't think there was.
Oh, there were limited and semi. Nothing was legit banned until the Yada lock.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that brought up Chaos Emperor Dragon, blowing up the field and someone Yada locking you after getting off Sandgan or Witcher Lock Forest rather. Yeah, that stuff happened to me all the time. Well, this is pretty great. Liquid Beast. The Liquid Beast. Red Archery Girl.
I love her card art. So cool. That's probably one of my favorite Pegasus cards.
Yeah, from the Pegasus starter deck. Pegasus starter deck came out. It was actually super cool. I felt like it was like slightly underpowered for what it should have been, but it brought 2 monsters really to us, and it was honestly really awesome.
Yep. Whenever those came out, my brother got Joey and I got Pegasus, and we got to keep the whole decks that time.
That's awesome.
So it was legit.
Last one, which I always thought this artwork was pretty interesting, Fairy's Hand Mirror. Although it's not a very good card. Can't even remember what it does. Let me read it for you. When your opponent activates a spell card that targets exactly one monster and no other cards on the field, target another card that would be an appropriate target. That spell now targets that new target. That's pretty wordy for these old cards.
It is. So, for instance, if somebody tried to nobleman your set monster and they had a set monster,
you can nobleman their own monster, which would be hilarious.
That would be savage.
This would be actually pretty funny to tech in if you could.
If you ever used that on me, I would scoop. I would just be like, really, dude?
I have new goals. New goals.
No.
All right. We'll let Docs get on. Forceful Sentry. Great card to pull. Ban, but great.
Have it just to flex.
Yeah.
Right?
I have to make a nice binder sometime.
That's hilarious. I start with an Umi Ruka as well. Nice. Performance of Sword and the ritual card for it. Commencement Dance.
One after another, really?
What a good pull.
Except for the fact that the 1950 attack, 1850, they just loved the 50s back then, and it's a ritual monster.
Yeah. Final Destiny.
That's pretty cool.
A Giant Germ.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Malevolent Nuzzler. I do remember really enjoying that card.
So played.
I remember I was like, that card's for chicks. I'm using Stimpack. They're like, Malevolent Nuzzler's better. And I'm like, I got a Stimpack.
I got a Stimpack.
Metal Fish.
This guy I always liked, but was always bad.
Flash Assailant. High Tide. Yojin? 1654 star. I do remember thinking this card was good, and it was like, that was legit,
It was 50 points stronger than Great Shark. Right?
Yeah. So, awesome.
Nice. That's awesome.
We're probably close to the half-hour mark, just for reference.
Yeah. So, do you want to open up these God packs? Take a little break from the God card little packs.
Yeah, let's do that, and we can also show. Let's do that because we can show the new Rarity, which is going to be super fun. Yeah, let's do it. All right. Do you mind if I go first?
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite God card out of the 3?
My favorite God card is so close between Obelisk and Slifer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Slifer takes it because anytime I think of Slifer the Sky Dragon, besides the horrible lock that Rare Hunter got Yugi into, and Yugi was literally tapping out, and Kaiba showed up and told him to just own up.
Yeah.
Whenever they're dueling in the castle, well, it's like a Coliseum, right? Clash at the Coliseum, I think is the
That's
episode.
name of the episode. Yep.
You've got Obelisk versus Slifer, but I remember there was some characters, they were, in the Shadow Realm or something. They're like in the hospital bed, right? And you look up at this Coliseum, and Slifer is wrapped around it so many times. So, Slifer's sheer, mass and design to me, and the two heads.
Oh, it was
the two-head thing is so
well designed.
So on point.
And they look so nice.
So there we've got Obelisk, Slifer, and Raw all together.
Very nice.
Then we've also got Blue Eyes. Let me kind of do these up close so we can see
how shiny
they look.
Really
so
are.
Good.
Yeah.
I also adored this Blue Eyes design because the very original one, obviously that one is so good, right?
Yeah.
But then there was that other one where he's kind of more in action, kind of. I thought that design was a little bit messy,
right?
But this with the tablet in the background.
Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah.
I love that they went with the tablets because of the whole Egyptian card.
Yeah,
theme.
so cool. Oh, we've got the new Rarity coming up too.
Yep. Yeah, that's after this, right?
That's going to be so exciting. Red Eyes. This Red Eyes looks like I'm used to seeing this Red Eyes specific art, not in any kind of foil or hollow.
Yeah, it looks so cool, honestly.
This looks 10 times cooler.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
It really makes the red pop, honestly.
Oh, sick.
That's nice.
So this is the 25th anniversary edition Rarity. So one of those per pack.
Docs has a few decks. You could definitely put that in.
Yeah, that works perfect. That is so cool looking.
Yeah, it looks awesome. And it says the 25th stamp down there.
Oh, yeah, there's a watermark under the flavor text. And I love the border of it. And you kind of have a parallel rare kind of design too.
Well, we never had any Rarity like this back in the day. So,
right.
This is pretty cool. Awesome. I'll begin opening this. Maybe.
When you're done, set your 25th.
Yeah.
And that's to our line of sight thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. My favorite God card was definitely Obelisk. But also, like you, I really like Slifer.
The sheer, I liked Slifer, but, as far as what card is the best besides all of Raw's BS, totally made up effects, Obelisk, 4K on the board, nothing else. It didn't, no hindrance, right?
Exactly.
You can't weaken Obelisk from 4K by some kind of manipulation.
It was the embodiment of Kaiba as a card, right? It was no BS, just going to bash your face in.
4,000 attack. What's his defense?
4,000.
4,000 defense.
Simple, right? Super simple. Just straightforward, simple. I'm going to beat you down.
Love it.
Yeah, for a God card, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So Obelisk, Slifer, and the Raw. The Blue Eyes, which I definitely will be using. Dark Magician. And
we're coming up. Show the camera.
And mine is a Obelisk, which is very cool.
That is sick.
Yeah, that is cool. And the cool thing about this, it actually has a blue back as well.
I did not even... What? Mine doesn't?
Yeah, which if you had gotten a God card, maybe it would.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Can I see that?
Absolutely.
That is so nice.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, they just look so shiny, right? So blinged out. Really, really neat.
It's for me, it's the perfect balance between detailed design, but nothing really gets lost, right? It's busy, but it's clean.
Well, they keep the foiling and the shiny effects on the actual imagery of the card kind of to a minimum. It's around the card that they kind of...
They really did a good job of highlighting certain parts, right? Because if you got to have the contrast, right? Good art always has good contrast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what pack do we have next?
Now we're going to be opening the Pharoah Servant.
Cool. I always really enjoyed the card art because he's just chilling, right? It's swag.
Right. Yeah.
He's he's about to go out on a Friday night and play Yu-Gi-Oh. Maybe at the club.
Yeah.
Maybe at the club.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the pack that includes obviously Genzo. You've got, I think, Thousand Eyes Strictus in here. So there's a lot of good cards you can pull from this. It was released 10/20/2002. So a lot of these cards in North America were released in 2002. So they kind of knew they had something on their hands there.
Yeah.
Kind of pushing out some cards and unloading them.
Out of all the packs in this release, I think Pharaoh's Servant, as far as title of the booster goes,
Yeah.
Pharaoh's Servant.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
So good.
I think Pharaoh's Servant was one.
Metal Raiders is a really fun name, too, though.
Yeah, Metal Raiders. I mean, I like Dark Crisis, and Invasion of Chaos is probably the most accurate.
Yeah.
You know, because it literally was chaos invading the game,
Mhm.
and it was there to stay for like the duration of Go format after it came in. And just so that, for your reference, there are 105 cards in this set.
So pretty much out of all these booster sets, there was nothing like under 100.
No.
Super satisfying,
Yeah,
right?
very much. Enchanted Javelin. I definitely know some friends back in the day that would use this bad boy right here.
For sure.
Gradius, which I personally always thought this card was really cool. Even if it wasn't very good. It was super cool.
Yeah, the sci-fi ship looking cards were always very cool.
Awesome. Inspection, which I'm pretty sure is part of some OTK strategy nonsense out there.
Literally never heard of it.
Yeah. It's just a way to drain your life points to a certain threshold to where you can activate like self-destruct button to tie the game or some other nonsense.
Some kind of weird cheese.
Some kind of not very fun thing. This thing was cool.
Spike bot. I love that art.
Michizuri, which I thought was a funny card art. You have some individual trying to claw his way out of a hole, another individual trying to drag him down. Kind of similar to life sometimes.
I always love the action like scenes. Trap cards that feel like an action scene is always great, right?
Yeah.
That's why like Trap Hole is like so like distinguishable.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. What's this? Bombardment Beetle. That's quite.
I remember him.
Oh, I like this card art. Quite a bit.
Yes, that card art was always
the All-Seeing White Tiger. Is that always called the All-Seeing White Tiger, or was it called the White Tiger?
Sure. I'm pretty sure it was full like that.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was awesome because he's a wind attribute, a tiger.
And that's just cool, right?
That's just cool, right?
The wind in the background.
Wind is so uncommon. 4-star Ladybug of Doom. And Wing Weaver, which I love this card, actually. I just think it's really cool. It's a vanilla monster, but 7-star. I had it in
Stronger than Dark Magician.
Stronger than Dark Magician. I had it in one of my my Reasoning Gate decks at a certain point with like blue eyes, just because I thought it was
That's
cool.
a good 7-star.
Cool 7-star. Just strong, right? Powerhouse.
Nice.
So that was fun. All right, you're up.
I love seeing like the evolution because like obviously this is a lot more consistent with like playable.
You see the
kind of cards.
Yeah, you definitely are seeing the game that we play today kind of taking shape before our eyes. That's
like even Wing Weaver, like you have that balance of this card is strong, but it's a vanilla monster, or this card is weaker, but it's an effect monster, right? So it's kind of where they're still like tuning things up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you still get a bit of inconsistency at times where you have this card that's really was never playable, right? But they're kind of phasing that out. You're not getting the 5-star 1750 monsters anymore.
Yeah. So, Gift of the Mystical Elf.
Very cool artwork.
DNA Surgery.
Some shenanigans with that.
I used to do a DNA Surgery inset barrier thing, which I just thought was fun. But the biggest reason I did it was because I loved Insect Knight so much, and I just had a lot of insect cards.
Yeah.
Science Soldier. I love that card art. That's like a Tristan card, right?
Tristan card. Any crappy card that is like machine cyborg thing, Tristan was all about it.
Thousand Eyes Idol, super awesome.
Yeah.
Gravity Bind. I got all the lockout,
the stall lockout. Burn
I got
cards.
all the anti-fun cards.
Yeah, anti-fun cards.
Earthshaker, Deep Sea Warrior. I always thought this card art was very cool.
Oh yeah.
It's a 5-star 1600, 1800. As long as Umi is face up on the field, this card is unaffected by spell cards.
Well, if you have Legendary Ocean, that's a free summon. That's not
true.
too terrible.
We've got Metal Detector and Solemn Wishes.
Nice.
Legitimately good card, right?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That right there, just a little thing about that. You remember the episode, the Noah arc, where the
Yeah, one of the
guys?
big five
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the Deep Sea Warrior, right?
Yep. That was like the first match Yugi had against him, I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah, that one was weird because I would get that mixed up with who he fought because, like, immediately after Teo fought the Penguin.
Yeah,
And it was
Penguin.
like two water villains in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
And that kind of like threw me off.
Yeah, the Penguin, that was pretty cool too.
We got 2 packs left.
Yep. All right, let's get it cruising, right? So Dark Crisis was released in December 1st, 2003, and it contained 106 cards.
And it's got Exodia Necros in the background.
This is a good time, actually, to ask you, do you have any particular pulls that you remember? Because I do.
You tell me yours first.
Dark Crisis particularly. I remember pulling Exodia Necros when I was younger, having 0 pieces of Exodia and no contract with Exodia, but still being absolutely elated and one
completely unusable card, but it's awesome.
It's amazing artwork. Not as good as it was in the show, which was pretty typical back then.
Yeah, of course. We were used to that by then.
Yeah, not really good at all, honestly, but still fantastic. And you may see a video of me playing one in the near future. Because I just I love that deck, so I'm definitely going to be working on one at some point.
That's awesome.
Well,
you do. While you show, I got to think of mine actually.
Mustering of the Dark Scorpions. I will still never get over how Don Zalug, definitely part of the Dark Scorpion group, leader, not a Dark Scorpion by name.
We're kind of the same way with Summon Skull not being a...
Well, they fixed that at least.
They did turn him into an Archfiend.
I don't think they ever fixed it with Don Zalug, unless I'm mistaken. If I'm mistaken, let us know down below.
Yeah, I don't know.
Staunch Defender. I have no idea what this card does. 1,000 Needles. That is pretty adorable. This is where we start getting the Archfiend. So
Archfiends and the archetypes as well, right? The Scorpions, the Dark Scorpions, the Archfiends.
Yeah, you can see it evolving kind of in that way as well. Mm-hmm. So we got the Shadow Knight Archfiend, which is actually a pretty cool. Archfiends are always interesting. If you can get them to work in some way, you can definitely get some wins. And not saying
I love the card design.
Yeah, the thematic way that they did it, the fact that they weren't broken. Obviously, archetypes nowadays are really broken a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Back then, if you were playing an archetype, it's because you love them, right? You just love something about them.
Yeah.
Tsukiyomi, which is our first spirit monster and one of my personal favorite cards.
This was the first spirit monster ever? Or like in
the set and released in Yu-Gi-Oh, I believe.
That's
I believe
awesome.
Tsukiyomi was I believe Dark Crisis was the first time we had spirit monsters, I believe. I'm pretty sure. And I don't even think you get all of them in here. I think a lot of them
makes sense, so they would spread those out.
But Tsukiyomi, super powerful card, very meta-relevant. Yeah, just game-changing when it came out.
I don't think I've ever been told by anybody that Tsukiyomi's card art is not
amazing.
Just awesome.
Its effect, the functionality of spirit monsters. If you don't know, spirit monsters are one of my favorite type of monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Outstanding Dog Marin. There is a story behind Outstanding Dog Marin, like actual kind of somewhat canon story you should look into. It's pretty interesting. Arsenal Robber. Heldo, which I believe was an Ishizu card, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah, the weird Earth Fairy stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the little Wing Guard.
Little Wing Guard.
What's he even do? Once per turn during your end phase, you can change the battle position of this card. Well, I guess that's all right. I guess you could attack and then change him to defense. His defense is 1,800. Nice. All right, you're up, Docs.
So, Dark Crisis. I am really struggling to remember like a card that I know that I pulled.
Did you or did you not pull a Dark Paladin at some point?
No.
Never?
Never. Mm-mm. No, I think I was like cursed with like not good pulls, and like my younger brother always got 6 pulls. Like I remember he got, we just ran and got packs one day, and he got a pack, and it had a Charcoal and Pachi, and it was that really high rarity with the gold letter.
That card looks amazing in that rarity.
It does, and I was so jealous about it. Yeah. So I do remember that, but
well, you know what? That counts, honestly.
Yep, weird Earth Fairies, right? Yep. So we've got Zolga, Arsenal Summoner. Hey, we've got Twin Swords of Flashing Light, Trice.
So the Guardians were also in this set as well. which was really cool. I love the Guardians.
Pandemonium Watchdog, Watchbear, Dark Bishop Archfane, Final Countdown, Iron Blacksmith Koetsu. You love the Ojamas, right?
All right.
Just the nasty, weird, gooey, tongue out, weird proportion,
Yeah.
like nasty
Just
bros.
trying to be disturbing in your face.
Just
sort of
uncomfortable,
cards.
right?
Uncomfortable, yeah. And then Goblin of Greed. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I love the Guardian cards in this. I wish they were good, but they're awesome nonetheless.
Mhm.
Guardian Growl.
Because the Twin Swords is part, right? Twin Swords is a Guardian card.
Yeah, it's Trice or whatever, the guy who I think he could attack twice or something.
Send one card from your hand to the graveyard, equip this card to a monster. It loses 500 attack, but can make a second attack.
Right, yep. So next we're going to be opening up Invasion of Chaos, which is probably the most influential pack up until this point by far. I would say it has a lot of powerhouses that are still very relevant.
I'm stoked we did this in the physical like pack release order because like D-Mock right there, one of the greatest freaking cards in Go, right?
Oh yeah.
And then he's rocking the dual disc. How is this the first one to have him wearing a dual disc?
I believe it is.
On the packs at least.
Yeah.
So like it's another level, right?
Oh yeah. It's,
like Battle City is.
Oh, Battle City
the
is
cream
like
of the crop,
if anybody's
right?
going to remember anything, it's going to be either Duel Monsters era or Battle City. And I think a lot of people probably recall Battle City the most. It just was so major,
Like,
right?
Yeah, because Duelist Kingdom, you went somewhere and then that's where the Yu-Gi-Oh was.
Right.
Battle City was I walk outside and anybody could duel me anywhere, right?
Right.
And it catch me in an alley or
Exactly.
whatever.
It brought the sense of adventure to you, right?
Mhm.
Versus you having to have kind of maybe a less feasible adventure that you could have. Not all of us can go to a Duelist Kingdom, but we can all go and find our friends and play outside.
Yeah.
And it inspired you to want to go to your friends and just like play like, in that regard, Especially when the Dual Disc came out, and man, those things tore up your cards like crazy, but they were pretty cool. I never had one myself, but they were very cool.
You didn't?
Yeah.
My brother had the OG Dual Disc and he broke it because he doesn't care of any of his stuff. He still doesn't. By the way, but you remember the Dual Disc, you hit a button and the physical disc would like swing together and then swivel, right?
Yep.
Well, he snapped that thing. So like if you had to just have it set up in the dual ready way, because if you tried to like undo that, it would just like fall apart.
Wow.
And I had the
Orichalcos one.
The Orichalcos one, which I love the aesthetic of it. I love
very cool.
The slim, kind of like sleek design.
Yeah, the telescoping.
The taper.
Yeah, the telescoping feature where it would come out and go back in. That was very cool.
Both dual discs are just super cool.
Oh, yeah. They re-released the standard one at some point. Like I think they've done it a couple of times at this point. But Invasion of Chaos was released 3/1/2004, and it contained 112 cards. But a lot of really good cards in those 112 cards. All right. How would you say that?
Boganian.
Boganian. Spatial Collapse. There's a very trolly deck you can make with that in like Ground Collapse or Collapse Ground, or what's that one that takes up 2 monster zones of your opponent?
Oh, that might be Ground Collapse.
Ground Collapse, yeah.
Yeah, or Field. Yeah, who knows?
Don't play it. Smashing Ground. Molten Zombie, which is a pretty cool card, actually.
I love that card.
Destruction Ring. Begone Knave, which is interesting. What does this even do? If a monster inflicts battle damage to your player, return that monster to its hand. That's kind of an interesting sort of stall-y card.
You can make some people mad with that.
Yeah. I love Yu-Gi-Oh's affinity for turtles because I love turtles. And
Island Turtle, UFO Turtle, Pyramid Turtle.
And Gora, the Turtle of Illusion. Look how awesome that looks. Can you imagine if that was shiny? Look,
that watercolor,
this
kind of like aesthetic. So
if that was shiny, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos Greed, which is awesome.
You straight up have played that card.
I have.
Like a
actual banish deck.
Yeah. Have you had that on the...
I have not, but I will at some point.
So, Pharoah will profile it eventually, but he has a Chaos deck where it's not the light versus dark Chaos. It is straight focused on banishing and all the benefits from like forcing banishing cards.
Right. So like, essentially revolves around like, Banisher the Light, which is kind of like this floodgatey kind of card where like any card that goes to the graveyard is like banished instead. So it really is like a very punch in the face to chaos decks, to the traditional light dark chaos decks. And I called it. There are a few other people out there that have done something similar. It's a very interesting deck to get to work. Obviously, Kaiku, very common card, real pain for this deck. But once it works and you can activate Chaos Greed and Chaos Greed and Chaos Greed, and you draw like 6 cards, it looks pretty ridiculous at times. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. And Skullmark Ladybug, which I knew a few people who played this out of necessity back in the day.
Yeah. It's funny how some cards back then, because the meta was who you played with, right?
Yep.
And so, if you got rocked by somebody's weird card, then you'd be like,
you built around that.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
I need to defend against it, or I need to have it. And it's funny the kinds of cards like Skullmark Ladybug or something that people latch onto.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I remember back in the day, for some reason, just Marauding Captain and cards of that nature being a real pain for me to get around.
Yeah. Stealth Bird. Once per turn, you can change the face down defense position. Once flip summon inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent.
Another Burning card.
Burning, and it's flip manipulation, which
as a mechanic we don't really have. Flipping themselves back down again.
Dawn Turtle.
Turtle.
Speak of the Turtle. I got a Molten Zombie. And I got Mad Dog of Darkness, the big butt poop looking guy.
That's actually a big deal, and that's really cool.
Manticore of Darkness. I was a huge, huge fan of the Beast Warrior, Winged Beast archetype back then, because they're so cool, right? You got Fenrir. Really think that card, the card art is crazy neat.
Yeah.
Got Yellow Luster Shield.
Used in the Yuki versus PK, what's the name? Player, no, it was called I think his name in the manga is different, right?
Oh.
It was called Panic in the anime.
Oh, Panic, yeah.
But in the manga it was called Player Killer or something.
Yeah, he was called the Player Killer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's that's the first time they had a song in the middle of a duel.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. It was really corny. Awkward first time.
It's funny once you know that Player Killer is what it was in the manga. Once you read the manga and you see the anime and you see the things they kind of manipulate for censorship purposes, and you actually look at Panic and it says PK and you don't know why, but it's for Player Killer on his actual jacket.
Oh, does it still say PK?
Still says PK.
Awesome.
So that was awesome.
1900 attack, 4 stars.
That was a big deal back in the day.
Huge
right?
deal. Yeah, because beatdown back then
legit
was
strategy.
Very good.
Yeah. I mean, as you saw, there's a lot of convoluted strategies. Yu-Gi-Oh! Hadn't really made that synergy yet. Chaos is the first time that synergy really came together in a constructive, powerful way. But before then, I mean, lots of random rogue strategies were pretty viable, honestly.
Yeah,
a lot of them revolving around beating down your opponent. Well, that was awesome.
That was super fun. So, Pharoah, what card do you think is your favorite? Obviously, these are just so awesome, right?
Yeah.
But what out of the packs do you think was probably your favorite that you pulled?
I don't know. Let's see here. Let me take a look. I think I already know, but just want to take another gander here. So these cards right here would be the ones that are the contenders for sure. I know that Wingweaver isn't actually a rare of any sort, but I actually like this card quite a bit. I would think, honestly, this Magic Jammer is probably one of my favorites. It's cool.
Oh yeah.
And I have 5 Tsukiyomis already. They're all super shiny, but I love Tsukiyomi anyway. So
yeah, you never.
It's awesome, cool card.
You're never oh man, I have too many Tsukiyomi.
Yeah. And now if I ever go back and make an older retro deck, I have a Forceful Century.
So I would say my group of favorites would be Mad Dog, Manticore, Dark Elf, sort of the deep-seated, and then Trap Hole as well. And honestly, my favorite has got to be the Trap Hole. I honestly really enjoy, the gold letter would look super good too, but I love the fact that it's hollow. You've got the hollow in the corner, and then it's just the classic label, right?
Yeah.
Just Trap Hole. Right?
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's
Plus, I've always had a soft spot for trap cards.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Magic Jammer was the first real counter trap card I think they had. Obviously, I think this was Metal Raiders, right? That I had. Metal Raiders introduced Mirror Force, introduced Solemn Judgment. Introduced a lot of powerful trap cards, and that was when they started to really be like, okay, let's evolve the meta of this game.
Yeah.
And because before it was super spell heavy, Forceful Century, Delinquent Duo, Raigeki, Monster Reborn, all that was before Metal Raiders.
Yeah, Magic Jammer's a huge card.
So they had Imperial Order pretty early on in one of those one of these packs. I can't remember exactly which one, but they were just like a real sucker punch to spell heavy decks, trying to counterplay that.
So I think I know this video has run a decently long amount of time,
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to do before we sign off here is what is a fun or old Yu-Gi-Oh story that kind of
oh yes
is one of the first ones that come to your mind or from back in the day?
I've got one. I mean, I have several, but one that I have in particular was back when I used to play in tournaments as a kid. As a kid, you're very trusting of a lot of things, and I kind of would leave my cards around, not really paying as much attention as I should have been. There were areas inside this place where you could play games or whatever. You can go get snacks, and there was a time where I was I left my cards unattended to go get something to snack on. Came back, my cards were gone. Right, a large majority of my cards were gone. Yeah, the whole box I had just gone, and I spent the rest of my time there before my dad came to pick me up, trying to find it. Couldn't find it. He picked me up. I told him about it. My dad's kind of a no BS individual when it comes to certain things like that. So he ran in there. This was not effective at all, but he ran in there anyway and just started screaming at everybody.
Really?
Yeah, just trying to get my cards back.
Your dad walked in and popped off on the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, just everyone in there.
Did you ever go back there?
No, I never did. That was the last time I went there.
Well, I mean, for one, you probably didn't want to go back because they took your stuff. Right?
I didn't want to go back.
So you kind of felt betrayed by the group.
Oh,
I
definitely felt betrayed. Yeah.
Were you embarrassed by your dad going in there?
No, I mean, he acted like that kind of often, So it was something I was acclimated to. I mean,
another day with dad doing his thing.
He had my best interest in mind. He was upset because he knew that every card that I had back in the day. My parents bought me the starter deck, and after that, everything I had, I worked for. If I bought packs, I did something to get it. If I remember when I was younger, this is going to sound funny to a lot of younger kids out there, but Pokemon related, I wanted the Gengar, it was a certain Gengar, or Haunter, that was I don't know if it's a special Haunter of some sort. I can't remember what it was now. It wasn't the first one, it was the second kind of really popular one that came out.
I remember I'd always go to flea markets and just spend my whole time looking at the Pokemon stuff.
Yeah, I went to a Comic Carnival, which I don't even know if it's a thing anymore.
And there was one kind of on Keystone Parkway, kind of north side Indianapolis, but kind of halfway between maybe Broad Ripple-ish. Yeah. But I think they might have shut down.
Yeah.
But they were the last one that I knew of, and I bet I was there maybe 5-ish years ago checking out comics.
I used to go there to check out comics at the time, because I used to actually like comics a lot when I was younger. I read them a lot recently, but especially that was back before manga was really common, so they had a lot of DBZ comic stuff there,
nice.
The very thin ones. But anyway, I used to, there was a Haunter there, I remember. I worked so hard to get it at my house. I cleaned up a bunch of stuff, did a bunch of work. It was $10.
Haunter's design was so
And
sick.
I was I worked really hard to just earn that, and that's what I did with everything that I had. For all the other cards I had, especially for tournament play, I traded, wheeled and dealed, and tournament play, and won.
You had to hustle for them.
Yeah, I had to win to get a lot of those cards as well.
Yeah,
and to lose them all in an instant just because of one naive moment.
You never got them back.
Never got them back. It was difficult.
Wow, I will say
So if you're out there,
such a clutch thing. You said, your dad kind of had that kind of attitude in general.
Yeah.
But the idea of I'm 31 years old. When I have kids, I'm thinking about my son comes up to me and is hey, my stuff got took, my game cards or whatever it is,
whatever is
my stuff that I enjoy, and this is what I was out here to do, and it was just taken.
Right.
And the fact he went in and popped off like that. It got no results, which kind of makes it funny.
Yeah, it makes it funny.
Nothing happened. Nobody really was all right,
But it did make me feel better, honestly, because like I was like, you know what, I don't feel so bad anymore. You know, like it was okay. I just moved on, and I collected again. I moved on, and I still play with.
I
friends.
would totally pop off on some kids for doing that to my kids.
It was funny because he like walked in there. He was like super mad. It was like, you know, he came back and he's like,
did he introduce himself? Like, was he like, hey?
I didn't actually go in with him because he said stay out here, and I just heard him yelling from the car.
Oh, he made you stay.
Yeah, I just could hear him yelling from the car.
Yeah.
And then he came back, but it was super funny because he came back. I was like, you know,
did you expect him to come back with any of your stuff?
I didn't know.
Were you like,
I didn't know what I expected. I was just kind of it was like mentally disheveled at the moment. And then when he came back, it was pretty funny though, because he came back, it's like, okay, let's go. And there was nothing.
That didn't work.
We just drove. That was it was great. So that's my funny story that I could think of.
So mine, there are so many, but I have a very short one that I will tell, just because I like the perception to it. So whenever I play tournaments locally, it was during Gladiator Beast Synchros, Elemental Heroes, Black Wings, all that stuff. And my Gladiator Beast was like my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh deck, Yu-Gi-Oh cards ever. I love the concept of the aggressiveness, right? You attack, you're rewarded by being able to toolbox out somebody and get out a new effect.
Yeah.
All the Roman aesthetic and stuff.
Right.
Loved it, right? I adored it. I actually have my that Gladiator Beast deck whenever I like retired from Yu-Gi-Oh back then.
Framed, right?
I framed it, yeah, and I have it at my house. Like I have all the cards in their sleeves, I set them out. And then I like put a little bit of like glue on the sleeves, and then I have it framed up. I'll have to put a picture of it.
I think that was so cool, honestly.
But there was a new Gladiator Beast that had come out called Gladiator Beast Escadari. Gladiators, the boss monsters were like all fusions. The best one probably being Gyzaris, the Bestiari one that was like a bird, 2400. When it's special summoned, you get to destroy. It's either 2 spell or traps, or 2 of cards.
Right.
But it was very good, super clutch. Well, there was a new Gladiator Beast that had come out called Gladiator Beast Escadari. And it was some kind of beast warrior in a chariot, and the pose was so cool.
Yeah.
And I remember they're fusion monsters, right? So they sit in your extra deck. I literally had one synchro in there with Stardust because I had a Starlight Road trap card, which would allow you to basically turbo out Stardust.
Right.
So my extra deck was 1 Stardust, Gladiator Beast Heraclinos, a 3000 attack monster that took 3 gladiators. The way they fused, by the way, was you would have to, I believe, return 2 monsters back to the deck. Like for Gyzaris, he was Bestiary and 1 other gladiator.
Yeah.
So you would return them to the deck and then pull that from your extra deck.
That's
Escadari came out,
really cool.
and he was like, I think he was 2500, no effect, but I think it might have been any 2 gladiator beast monsters.
Oh, nice. So super vanilla kind of requirements.
And it was just good because it was so easily accessible, right? And I remember having 2, and I really wanted a third one. And I remember somebody that we played with, he was older than me at the time. At the time, I was like 18, 19, something like that. And he had one, and I had a card that was very good for the synchro meta game at the time. I don't remember what it was. It could have been something like a Treeborn Frog. Who knows what it was. But I remember I was like, hey, I will trade for that Escadari if you want. Because he knew I was a Gladiator Beast player, and that's like strictly all I did. I didn't have any other decks. And he didn't really have any use for it. It was a new card. The art, like I said, was so cool. And he was like, well, I'll trade you this one card that you have. I don't even remember what it was, but I knew it was a good card, and I was never going to use it for my stuff. And I traded it to him, and he's like, other people were like, hey, that guy just ripped you off because that card you traded him was way better than Escadari. And I was like, I don't care because I'm going to use Escadari.
Right.
And my logic behind Yu-Gi-Oh! So much is, yes, I want my deck to be good, but I want to use
the cards you want to use.
The cards I want to use, right?
Yeah. And also,
I was always like good, but I wanted to have fun, kind of like coincide.
In the same way, and that's what really I think a lot of our decks are around, right? I play online a lot, obviously, when I'm making videos and things like that. But a lot of it's just experimenting, trying to use cards that I think are really interesting, cool, potentially good, and use them in a way which is viable, right?
Mhm.
Because I want to bring that. I want people to feel like they don't have to just play Chaos Turbo or
Because
whatever.
unpopular cards that you like can surprise you because you
Absolutely.
can find unique ways to work with them.
Like Magic Jammer, for example, can be really good, honestly, if used in right situations in the right way.
Activate Magic Jammer, discard a Night Assailant or something.
Absolutely, or Thunder Dragon for a chaos play,
Exactly.
or you could stop a Pot of Greed, a Graceful Charity, something destructive, Dimension Fusion, whatever.
And other times you'll have an unpopular card and you try to use it, and it's just like not working, like at all, right? So there's like the two sides to that. I think we're probably all wrapped up though for the video.
I think so. I'm pretty happy with this. Are you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, this was an excellent experience. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Legendary Collection, 25th.
Yeah, I'd say if you were thinking about getting this, it was like $30 for us.
$30.
So
to open 6 of like those old packs,
which is actually just great value in itself, honestly. And then just having the pleasure of pulling cards and just, obviously, if you're trying to build a specific deck, it's obviously just more intelligent to just go and seek those cards out. But if you're looking for a fun time with your friends, with yourself, pull something really cool and and have more memories, then I suggest doing this. Definitely.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Nice.